In support, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
These measures, 855-10 all the way to 857-10, are all related, Mr. Speaker. And it has something to do with general excise tax. One is to review them, the first one, because the way it is when somebody, a company, asks for an exemption, there is no review process. They could have been ineligible after 3 years. We don't know. So the first one, just so everybody knows, just simply review it after 3 years by the Department of Taxation if those exemptions are still valid, and also to impose penalties for those who are taking general tax exemption and no longer valid. And I think that at this time that we're looking for ways to fund the state, that we need to review those and make sure that we're giving it to the people who deserve it. And also the residency requirement, as we all know, there's a lot of companies that come and do business in Hawaii that never pay taxes, and we never got a chance to really catch them, to look at whether they deserve to be taxed. And the last one, Mr. Speaker, is to calculate the income of those people asking for and put a standard to them and impose those standards at where those exceptions are. So those are the means. There's a lot of talk about the military here. I guess they're part of it. And I understand that the Congress give those exemptions to big developers to come and build military housing years on or years before. This bill are just going forward. They're not going backwards. And former Congressman Neil Abercrombie came and testified in front of the committee and did say that these exemptions are just passed through. They don't benefit the military, they just benefit the military contractors, and that 4.5% is an advantage that they have over the local contractors. That's why they can afford to bid lower, because they have that 4.5% advantage. And with that measure, Mr. Speaker, what's fair is fair. So I'm in support because our local contractors need that same break, just like those contractors from the mainland. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Representative Pine, second time.
I want to vote no now.
Okay. Madam Clerk, a no vote for Representative Pine.
Couple of points. This does affect the military, and now this does affect local people. This particular project that will be affected in my district is called Pu'uloa, or it used to be called, it's waterfront at Pu'uloa. It used to be called Iroquois Point, and it used to be a military base. And it was part of the BRAC closing. It was part of the whole Congress's plan to change this military base and switch it over. And so the incentives that Congress gave were tax incentives, and it was agreed with the state government to help out with the GET tax exemption. So this bill is changing the entire policy and plan of Congress as well as the state of Hawaii, and that's fine if that's the intent of this legislature. This is how this tax exemptions helps the local people in my district. Because military families are able to move there, one, it helps the locals because they're helping to reduce traffic on the Leeward Coast because they're using the waterways to get to their work, as well as a lot of the civilian DOD workers are using the waterways by staying in this development. That's one way that's helping the local people. By getting this tax exemption, and that includes some of the military families, actually 40% are military that lives in this development, 60% are local people. By getting this tax exemption, do you know that you can get a 3-bedroom single family home with a yard for only $1,400 because of this tax exemption? That is helping 60% of the low-income local people that are living there. So go ahead and take this tax exemption away. I guarantee you they're not going to be able to afford renting to the local people for $1,400 a month. That's just not going to balance out in their books. They're going to do what everyone else is doing. They're going to raise the rent because they can, and that's how it's going to affect local people.
Thank you very much. Representative Mark Takai?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Second time.
Yes.
I will keep mine with reservations for now. Here's my concern. We have, as you know, Mr. Speaker, I've been working on military housing, and we've been working with the federal government through the Impact Aid Table 9 program. So I'm well aware of the projects that are occurring on bases, okay? And I do believe there's a difference between on-base projects and off-base projects. For example, and the housing chair brought it up, I don't want to, and I don't think we should be supporting a mainland company against a local company for off-base housing. But we have a housing project going into Ford Island, and what this bill says is that you must have local people living in those housing in order to get the tax exemption. We cannot put local people on military bases. That's not the intent of the military housing projects program. It's to put military families into these houses so that they can get off of the rolls on the off-base housing to provide for low-cost rentals for our local people. I think we need to go back to the intent that we set about a decade ago in this PPV program, because if in fact we're affecting these on-base contracts, and I believe these are 50 to 99-year term leases, then I think we have an obligation to fulfill our promises that we made in the past. I have no problems with making sure that we level the playing field between the local companies and the mainland companies for projects off base. But I think we have to, and we owe it to ourselves, to take a look at the impacts happening on our bases. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members of the House. Representative Covenant, the chair will allow you your second time.
Yes, short comments.
please.
In rebuttal, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we do like to honor contracts that may be written 100 years ago. But right now, we cannot take care of our own kupunas. We cannot take care of our own children. We're having furloughs. We're laying off people. And if this tax repeal of general excess tax would be the solution to keep our government working, because unlike the federal government, we cannot print money. I am for it. I believe that imposing general excess tax on these income brackets is what we need. And we need to look at ourselves, and we need to take care of our own people, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Members of the House, we've had a lot of discussions on the pros and cons of this particular measure, and it will be going to the Committee on Finance. So can we proceed on? If Rep. Finnegan wants to say a few words for or against, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just reservations,
So
please.
ordered with reservations. Representative Har,
Same request, Mr. Speaker.
with reservations. So ordered. Representative Marumoto,
Reservations.
so ordered. Representative McKelvey.
Thank you. I'd just like the words of the speaker from EVA the second time, and Newtown enter the record as if they were my own.
So ordered with reservations. Representative Sahum.
Reservations, please.
So ordered with reservations for Representative Sahum.